My name is Tiffany Lavelle. About 3 weeks ago, on August 4th, my 5-year-old dog Saint was taken to ACCT for safekeeping by a Philadelphia police officer. This happened after his father, Brian Landis, had a traffic stop and had to be taken to the police district. But within less than 2 hours, he arrived at ACCT to pick up Saint. When he got there, the executive director told him that Saint had a broken jaw. She then blamed the police for the broken jaw and refused to give Brian Saint, saying that he needed to have documentation right then, saying that he was going to the veterinarian. Brian tried as hard as he could to get him, but they refused to give him to him. Since then, we had learned that the police did not do the initial abuse.
Saint! Oh, I'm gonna fuck you.
With Brian still in shock at the sight of Saint's injury, ACCT Philly's executive director, Aurora Velazquez, and her staff promised that ACCT was the safest place for him to receive care. Brian left ACCT trusting that his horribly injured dog was being medically treated. He and his family discussed next steps to get Saint home and continue medical care.
The dog is at a point medically where what's best for him, if I'm being really transparent, might be to stay here just due to his condition.
My
Sir, I did not say that.
You didn't say that?
I did not say that.
I said the cops brought my dog here.
I said that.
You said that.
Yeah, and we totally understand how upsetting that is. What we're trying to figure out now is how to provide him the care that he needs and have clarity on whether you're going to be able to do that in the future.
So my dog gets taken off me because I can't provide medical care because you broke my dog's jaw?
Well, we didn't break your dog's jaw.
The cops broke my dog's jaw, so now I get my dog burnt?
Well, listen.
My dog taken off me?
We just want to do what's best for the dog. All we want to do is what's best for him to get him the medical care that he needs.
That was the last time Brian would ever see Saint. We now know that the minute Brian left ACCT, Aurora indicated to staff that Saint would be put to sleep at the end of the day if Brian didn't return for him, despite ACCT's own vet outlining viable treatment options for his care. The end of the day was less than an hour away at that point. There were absolutely no attempts made to contact Brian to tell him of her decision. There were no attempts to transfer Saint to an emergency vet, which is shelter protocol. ACCT had a duty of care since he was abused by their trained staff. Why did Aurora withhold that same care she demanded of Brian before she would give him his family dog back? Despite the family frantically calling numerous times that evening, no information was entered under Saint's records so that staff could communicate with them. Brian returned the next day to pick up Saint, and only then was he informed of his baby's fate at the hands of ACCT Management. We now know that no one knew of Saint's fate except the leadership at ACCT, since medical notes that are dated 8/4 were not entered until days later, and the medical manager refused to speak to the family. To this day, no one from ACCT has provided clear information to the family regarding Saint's brutal injury at the hands of Aurora's staff and his subsequent murder. The trained staff member that abused Saint is still employed, is a trained individual with years of experience in handling innocent animals every day.
Didn't say anything.
You spoke to somebody?
Okay.
That night?
Again.
Okay. I'm just letting you know that, that I have proof of the phone call and the length of the time.
Okay.
Okay.
So, as a result, Saint's injury needed to be addressed. We're not a hospital. There was nowhere for Saint to go. Saint also was not allowing us to treat him.
Because he's hurt him. Okay.
So, to prevent suffering for him, that's why that decision was made.
That's 100% illegal. Excuse me. I have a video of when he was here. He was refused. They didn't offer him resources. They would not allow him to bring him home because they said he needed to have a paper saying that he had an appointment with a veterinarian, which I can understand because the dog's hurt. But he came to pick up a healthy dog. He was not expecting this.
Mm-hmm.
And he did just walk away. But then he called, and they said he had 48 hours to come and get him. Time since Wednesday night. No, not once in that video do they say that his injuries were life-threatening. They didn't offer him any resource. They asked him to sign over his rights. And They knew he had a family. They knew he had a family. If he came for him then, that's not an excuse to me. He walked away. Of course he walked away. His jaw was hanging from his face. His injuries. Was his jaw broken?
I can't confirm that because that's why I want to speak with my vet.
Because biting something does not break your jaw. Biting, it's not okay. None of this is okay. He had a family. I would have been here with him if he really had to be put down. He trusted Brian putting him into that car. And if he had to be put down, I would have been here with him. He died alone when he has a big family. I have a 4-year-old child that I have my other child here that I had to tell, like, this is not okay. You guys are supposed to take care of him.
I that to you.
Where's his ashes?
So we do.
Where's his leash and his collar?
So those things aren't.
Oh my God. He took every piece of them.
The PSPCA was conducting an investigation of their partner organization. However, they now claim it's beyond their scope to investigate, and there's no willingness on their part to prosecute the management at ACCT. Today, we ask members of the public, ACCT staff, local animal advocates, and volunteers to stand up for Saint and ask for justice. Contact the PSPCA and demand an investigation of Aurora Velazquez, her management team, and the actions they took that led to the abuse and murder of Saint. The ACCT Board has been contacted for over a year now with valid documentation of Aurora's unethical actions towards animals, adopters, pet owners and lovers, staff, and rescues. Yet Board member Councilman Dom, along with Board co-chair and animal advocate Marcia Perlman, continue to tell us that they don't deal with the day-to-day affairs at ACCT and cannot get involved in such. Since they will not take definitive action, we've made the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office aware of our findings, and they are now involved. Enough is enough. Saint had a family looking for him and fighting for him. How many animals have walked through those doors with no voice and have suffered the same fate under this ACCT management? Stand up for Saint. Stand up for all the lives taken.